Hello everyone. I'm going to make a new tutorial about how to make my multi-segmented doors. I've had a few questions about that online, so I'm going to start a new map and show folks how it's done. So here we are. You got to set your for UZDoom Doom to UDMF, or you can select it for UZDoom, which is I'm going to do here because I'm using UZDoom. And ZDoom ACS. You need those two selected for this to work. This here is completely extraneous stuff that's related to Dragon Sector that you really don't need. Alright, so here we go. Alright, we'll start off with making a nice big room. Now, call me pedantic, I like to have my starting room centered on the center of the grid. Alright, now let's make a nice big doorway. And another nice big room. Yes, I like to have things centered, so call me pedantic. Let's see here. Let's make these both 256 pixels tall. Alright, and I don't like these textures too well, so I'm going to change them out. Clear. Let's go and have a look in visual mode. And these here are going to be gray. I just like to keep things simple. Alright, now then, I'm going to make the box. First of all, I'm going to do this. Let's take the brightness down to 32, that way I can actually see my cotton picking grid. Let's see here. There it is. Now I'm going to make my little box that I'm going to put the doors in. Then we're going to make the middle door really thick, just because, to keep things simple. Line. Typical door. I have to set the side textures to lower unpegged. Choose a door texture, like doorstop. These are my favorite. Zeroed out. And clear cube right. And you see what it looks like. Alright, now then. Just going to put that up here too. With UZDoom, you can do that. You can take wall textures and put them on ceilings and floors, which I really like. So let's do that too. Alright. Now then, let's close this door down. Before we do that, let's make it, let's give it a tag, new tag, 1. let's put a door in there. Yeah, let's do that. Control Z. And I'll show you why I'm doing this here in just a little bit. Alright, let's go back over here and have a look-see over here what this looks like. Alright, good deal. Now that's my first door. Now, we're going to make my poly objects. As I said in one of my earlier videos, this is 128 by 0, so we need to make sure that's 128 by 0, because that's going to be the container for our poly objects. Vertices, right? Okay, now then, our first poly object. Now where do we put all of this? Okay, the door. Okay, we need a short segment on the right, so the long segment on the left. Alright, right. So, here's what we're going to do. You notice that I'm carefully lining these up. And I'll explain why in just a couple of minutes here. Okay, that's poly object number 1. Now, poly object number 2, which is going to be, I think it's 64. We'll adjust that as necessary as I continue to build this. Alright, sector, tink, and delete, clear, line, this is number 1, poly object start line, poly object number 1, okay, poly object start line, poly object number 2. Now, in my previous video, I did the mirror poly object number, but because these two are different sizes, you don't want to do that. Alright, let's see here. So we're going to make that sound sequence 2. And this one here is going to be sound sequence 4. Alright, now then, line. Ding, ding. Right. Yeah, let's go ahead and make these this. Control C. Control C. And I'm just going to stick with the Doom door textures here, because it's just simpler to do it that way. Now then, because the door that goes up and down is going to be against these textures here, we need to set these for lower unpegged. Otherwise they will scroll with the raising and the lowering of the door. That's in the center. So those need to be set to lower unpegged. Okay, and these here can be pretty much whatever you want to make them, or they can even be blank because you're not really going to see them. Alright. Actually, you will see them, but that's neither here nor there. Alright. So we got our poly objects set up. So now we need to set up the anchors, 9300 for this one. Now you see where those little tags are there? That's the center of your door. So put your poly object number there, or your anchor there, 9300. Angle is 1, which is poly object number 1. Might help if I put it in the right place. And this one here will be poly object number 2. There's your anchors. Okay. Vertices. So, thing 9301. And number 1. Alright, so if you start the game, clear. Let's put a player start here. Alright, and let's go ahead and do something else too that I should have done. Let's see here. I don't like to have bright lights in sectors. I like to do dynamic lights because they just make things look a lot better. And when you're working, it makes things a lot easier to work with too. So let's go ahead and set these at 64 height. And 96 brightness. Okay. Clear. Let's run it and see what it looks like. And you'll notice I got the Dragon Sector loading screen and everything going on. That's because I'm working everything with Project Brutality and Dragon Sector. I'm just using that configuration, so it's going to take a little bit extra time to load, but that's okay. If you're using just vanilla assets, it won't take anywhere near this long to load the game for testing. It'll take just a couple of seconds. Come on already, let's load up. Alright, you can see how it looks. And right now it's not doing anything. Alright, the two poly objects are closed there. Quit game. Alright. Okay. So we got that part done. Now, go back into visual mode, and you won't see the poly objects. You'll only see the door textures. Let's actually change this to the green so we can differentiate. Alright, good deal. Now, we're going to make a voodoo doll track. There's a great many ways to make these. But this is the way I prefer to make them. Okay, sector is, let's make it 96. I always make them 96 pixels high, 0 to 96. That's pretty much a convention that I use for all of my voodoo doll tracks. Other people might make them a different way than I do. I know that Dragonfly uses a different method, but this is the way I prefer to do them. So put a new tag in that, and we're going to raise it up to 96 so it becomes a barrier. And let's put some textures on the lines. Doesn't really matter what textures you put there. Let's go ahead and just slam that one on there because you're not going to see it anyway. Now we're going to put a voodoo doll in there, which is in player 1 start. Okay, now here's the thing. Player 1 start, player 1 start. This is thing number 7, and this is thing number 4. The highest number is where the game is going to start. Alright? So if you start the game now, it's going to start with you in this voodoo doll track. That's just kind of how that works. So let's do this. We're going to put this one in the voodoo doll track. Now, to make this work, go into sector properties. Special is scroll north, or carry north, or rather, because carry is faster than scroll. Carry fast. Carry north fast. Okay, clear. Now let's remove the sound sequence from this so there's no sounds. We're going to make that silent. Silence. Okay, now we made this tag 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a switch in here. Let's put some Sean on there. And we'll put a switch texture on here. Switches. Okay, let's make sure that's how we want it to look. And yep, it is. Okay, so we got a switch. Alright, now then, line. Floor. Lower instantly by value of 8. Tag number 2, that's that little block sector. Lower by multiples of 8, 12 times 8 is 96. Repeatable action, the player presses use. Okay, so that is going to connect to that. You see? Okay, versus, okay, now then, we're going to put a line here, and a line here. Let's just go ahead and put it here, just for, so sec our line, polyobject move, polyobject door slide. We want it to be repeatable. Polyobject number 1. I'm going to set it to turbo. Movement angle is that way. And let's make it 124. And give it a 6-second delay. When player walks over, repeatable action. Okay, so this one here is going to move this polyobject here this way 124. And this one here is going to be polyobject door slide number 2. Polyobject number 2. Let's leave it at fast. Let's move it at that angle, and we're going to move it 62 because that polyobject is only 64. We're going to give it a 5-second delay. Actually, let's give it 4. We're trying to sync it all up here. Repeatable action. One player walks over. sure we have this if the one player walks over. Yep. Alright, now then. Now we're going to put another line in here. Door, raise, sector tag number 1, go away. Let's see here, we're going to go ahead and call it normal. 6 seconds. Repeatable action when player walks over. Alright, so now we have all these set up so that when the player throws the switch, the voodoo doll is going to be released to walk over these lines. And they're going to move these things. So let's go ahead and try that out and see how that works. How about that? Now, we're going to complete the effect. Now this line here is going to lower or raise the floor to lowest ceiling. Tag number 2. And set it for turbo. Repeatable action when player walks over. So that'll raise that back up again. And then we're going to have the player teleport back to a teleport that we're going to put in here. And give it a new tag. Tag 3. So that when the player crosses over this, clear, line, teleport, silent, tag 3, repeatable action when player walks over. So when the player walks over this line, they go back to this spot here. And we're going to bring this line down here because we don't need all this extra space. Now, let's run it. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? Then it rolls back up again. And now, let's do the key so you can see what your voodoo doll is doing down here. There's the voodoo doll down there at the bottom left. So let's go up here and see what's happening. It resets the door every time that happens. So you can press the switch as many times as you want. The door's only going to actuate once while it's still in its cycle. Okay? And that's basically how that's done. Very simple to do. Very easy to do. And you can adjust the timing just by basically adjusting these lines and testing. You just move these lines to wherever you think the timing will work best. You can adjust the timing on the poly objects and so on and so forth to get the effect that you want. And that's how that's done. And it's really as simple as that. I hope, man, I really hope that this helps you make better maps for yourself. This has been Barefoot Map Maker signing off. Please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.